Everyone, welcome back to Getting in a College Coach Conversation. Now, March is the time for decisions, as we talked about in our last segment. It is also the time of International Women's Day, and I think the whole month is actually Women's History Appreciation. And so we thought we'd bring a couple of women on the show just to start. We've got Mary Sue Youn, we've got Tova Tolman here. Hey, y'all, how you doing?
Hello.
Hello.
I can't help but wave when I see you.
There's a video component, so that makes a lot of sense. And what we wanted to talk about was the two women that are on the show with us today share many things in common. One of the things that they share in common is that they used to work in admission at a women's college, Barnard College, which many people are familiar with. It is in New York City. It is across the street from some other university that nobody really knows about. And we wanted to talk a little bit about women's colleges. Now, in the show that we had last week, we read The Price You Pay for College, which is a terrific book. We unpacked a lot of it. There was a great chapter 13, right in the middle, titled The Special Power of Women's Colleges. And I love that Lieber gave some opportunity to let some shine come onto those women's colleges and really think about how they add some value to student experiences. And we just wanted to have a chat today about women's colleges and the kinds of opportunities that are available for women there. I'll start with you, Mary Sue. What do you think is, aside from the obvious, a key difference about an experience at a women's college versus a coeducational institution?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and one that as I work with students, they consistently ask me. I was not wise enough when I was 17 to go to women's college. Unfortunately, I went to a co-ed school, but I worked in the Barnard admissions office for 8 years. And over that time, I really came to love and appreciate everything that Barnard and women's colleges in general stood for. Some of the major things that I saw as being really benefits, I think it's a place where women can feel supported and nurtured to take on leadership roles, to achieve their best selves, to really get ready to take on the world. And some specific examples of that. There's definitely been studies that show that women particularly, I think women's colleges are great sort of across the board, but women in STEM tend to do particularly well when they go to women's colleges. And there's a higher percentage of women who persist in going through to a STEM degree when they're in a women's college environment as opposed to a co-ed environment. There's a higher percentage there. So, I saw that firsthand and saw that it was a place where, students were just supported in a way that I didn't see it necessarily in other schools.
So in this book, he recounts a conversation with the president of Smith College, which is, of course, a women's college. And he asked her, why is a women's college worth all the extra money, right? Which is whatever question. And she said, imagine a place where every single position of note is held by women, right? So you as a woman, as a young woman coming into that college environment, you see faculty members, presidents, administrators, women who are in those positions of leadership. I think that that's a really great opportunity to visualize yourself in that space. Tova, women's colleges, in addition to, having this fundamental aspect of their population, they also have a lot of other characteristics in common. You don't find a lot of big R1 universities that are women's college. There aren't any, in fact. Can you talk a little bit about some of the characteristics of a women's college in terms of the more traditional college aspects, size and, student faculty interaction, stuff like that?
I could try.
You could do it.
I don't know. I don't know that I could speak to all of them so well. I think you are right. For that key piece they're going to have in common is the what you just touched on, the idea of representation and how powerful that is to look around and see that representation, not just in the administration, the faculty and the staff, but to your peers, to look to see who's the student body president, who is the president of this club, of that club, who's writing, who's the of this journal, of that organization. Other commonalities I think you can't help but see is some element of strength, internal strength that is celebrated. I've been many a panel at the Seven Sisters or in other environments where the common theme you see amongst the conversation of who is selected, who chooses, who opts in, is this idea of some element of women's empowerment, of not
Yeah.
needing someone to explain it for you, of wanting that environment of supportive and collaboration over competitiveness. And I think that's something also that I see celebrated a lot of the time. How can we build each other up instead of competing against one another?
A lot of girls that I talk to who are looking at the college experience, I think one of the things they'll say is, I don't want to go to a school where I don't get to interact with men. Just period, right? But that feels like a little bit of a myth. It's right, Mary Sue, like you're not for 4 years only interacting with women. And then you come out and you're like, I forgot what these other
beings
are, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about just the presence of men in some respects on women's colleges and especially with some of the consortiums out there too?
Right. I mean, first of all, for Barnard in particular, it's in New York City. You're not going to go an hour without seeing a guy. But I think so. I mean, that's unique to Barnard, but I would say that many women's colleges are in some sort of consortium with a co-ed institution. Bryn Mawr with Haverford, and the Mount Holyoke and Smith with the 5-college consortium in the Amherst, Massachusetts area. So, I think that there are certainly consortiums if you wanted to have more co-ed interaction. But again, I didn't find at all that it was an issue where students didn't interact with males. But I would also say that one of the things I learned recruiting for Barnard for so long was that it really depended on when you talk to the student in the recruitment process. And there's actually, so as part of my role, when I moved up to a more senior role at Barnard, I did get to be a representative for some of these women's college consortium meetings that we had. And so got to talk to other admissions leaders at other women's colleges about kind of our shared experience. And there was a study that they did that showed that young women who went to women's colleges often added those colleges into their list a little later on in the process. So if you talk to a 9th or a 10th grader who's still very much in the maturing process, identity process, trying to figure out kind of who they are, 9th or 10th grader might say, no, I don't want a women's college, but they might come back in 11th or 12th grade and say, I've reflected on it, and given my goals and the strength and the many benefits of a women's college, I'm ready to look at it now and seeing really more of that. I think in the Barnard admissions office, we had a question for a long time on our supplement, on our writing supplement, which was something to the effect of, why do you want a women's college experience, or what's a woman in history that you would want to interview? So it was kind of a question that was a test of, why do you want a women's college? And the tone of that answer really told us a lot. If it was sort of, I guess it's okay, or I guess I'll deal with it, that's not the answer that you want to give. We really sought out students who wanted this experience and were excited about the resources and the benefits of being in an all-women's environment. And so, go for it, Tova. I see you have something to add.
Tova's laughing,
I am, because I have a confession to make, and it's not a proud one. It's not a point of pride. So Ian didn't mention it. While Mary Sue and I worked together at Barnard, I also went to Barnard. And I am embarrassed to admit I chose Barnard College in spite of it being a women's college. And I'm laughing here because Mary Sue's talking about this growth of maturity and the intelligence that it takes to get you to that point. I didn't get to that point until long after I had already arrived. And I have to say it was common. Ian, you can ask your clarifying question in a moment. But before you interrupt me, man, let me tell you, it was very common for many students to have gotten there, maybe almost accidentally, because of how closely Barnard is in partnership with Columbia. Many of your classes are actually co-ed. There are many males in the residence halls and your social experience in the athletics. So it's a little bit of an enigma in that way. But my point is that it came to be the most valuable part of my experience. But I will admit, I did not see that worth early on. When I was 17, I did not have that maturity to appreciate that. And I don't think that's uncommon for students who are looking and exploring and choosing some of these schools for many of their other attributes and not necessarily valuing that as being one of the greatest pieces of it.
How did they end up on your list? If you didn't see that value initially, why did you apply? Who told you to apply? Or was it just like, I guess I'll add this one, right? What
It
was
makes
that
my
like?
mother so happy, but my mother knew.
Yeah.
Mothers always know. So it depends. Usually there's someone in the student's life who says, there's that student who says, I'm only looking at big schools. And
Yeah.
someone says, please just check out one small school. I'm only looking at rural schools. Please go check out one urban school.
Yeah.
I was checking out a school across the street, adamant that I would not consider Barnard College. I didn't want to go to a women's college. I don't want to go to this school. And I went across the street and realized that was not the school for me. And my mother practically dragged me against my will and better judgment. And of course, she was right, because mothers always know.
Right.
And I think that's what you just have to, anytime a student's looking at lists and not sure what to consider, what's something that you're so sure of that you can maybe go a little outside the box and check and explore and see, might I consider that? Have I actually visited one? Have I actually done any research to cross it off my list in any educated fashion?
We ask that a lot, don't we? But why? Why don't you like this? Why? Come on.
Why not this school?
Now, when we talk about colleges, we always say, there's a right fit for everyone. It depends on whether you're going to like it. Not all students, et cetera, right? I don't know if this is a controversial view. I think every young woman could benefit from certain aspects of women's college experience, but there are women who are not best fits for a women's college experience as well. I wonder if the two of you could collaborate on who would absolutely be a perfect fit for a women's college, and then who is somebody that maybe it's not quite right for them, but they should still give it a look. What do we think?
I'll try the who's maybe not a right fit aspect. So I have two teenage daughters, and one of them is a freshman in college, and she wanted to go into engineering. And there are actually two women's colleges in the U.S. that have engineering programs that are ABET, which is the Professional Engineering Certification accredited, Smith College and Sweetbriar College, which is in Virginia. So there are a couple of women's college options. I did try to get her to look at Smith.
Because mothers always know.
Yes, mothers always know. And after 8 years of Barnard and really being friends with a lot of wonderful Barnard alum, I was like, yeah, come on, women's colleges are great. I also have alums of some of the other women's colleges that are good friends. But when it came down to it, she looked into the particular program that she wanted, and it was not as well, the department wasn't as good of a match for her. It wasn't about sort of the women's college aspect. It's just, the department that she wanted really wasn't present in the two women's colleges that had engineering programs. So that was, but I think for other students who are into engineering, it could be, a great fit for one of those programs. So, in her case, that wasn't a fit. I still encouraged her she's very involved, not surprising since she's my kid, in sort of women in STEM initiatives in her current college. And so I'm still sort of saying, think about that aspect of your life experience too. So I think, if the program isn't a great fit for them, it's still not a great fit, even though it is a women's college.
All right, Tova, take us home.
Oh gosh.
Who would be great for a women's college?
A doer who is going to be looking to be motivated and inspired by their peers, not intimidated, although they will be, because I was, goodness gracious, I still am, by all of my incredible friends who I graduated with. They are doing incredible things. And I'd say when we were in admissions looking at these candidates, we'd look for seeds. Who already has that seed of some element of strength, of doing, of moving, of shaking, that just needs a little bit of watering in the right kind of environment. And that kind of student is always going to flourish when surrounded by that kind of strength and support.
That's great. That's perfect. I think that does it for this segment, folks. Well done. both of you. Appreciate having you on today. You don't have to wipe your brow, Tova. That's terrific. Thank you both for being here. I appreciate it.
Thanks for
You're
having us,
welcome.
Ian.
Awesome. When we come back, we're going to do a little bit of listener Q&A. So don't go away.